Last week, after some horsing around, there was a bunch of waffle about this 991 engine with a mystery ticking noise and a bunch of metal in the oil pan. This week, we're going to go from completely broken engine to completely broken. There's no time to waste. Time to invade Bank 1 with a fury of these torque bolts. No more 10 mils, folks. Then wedging, pulling off, done. That's a solenoid for the vario cam. Some cam caps with some e-torques. That's the guide for the chain, which is fine. 39,000 miles, it should be. That little plastic thing wedges off. Lee Jenkins at the Facebook group Porsche Engine Gurus was kind enough to tell me the correct way to remove these cams is to unbolt the timing gear from the right-hand side there. Of course, I'm going to cut the chain anyway because it's quicker and funnerer. That made it easy to get the intake cam out, but we still have some more frenzied unbolting to free the exhaust cam. There's still some coolant left, surprisingly. Quite a lot. So this little gizmo here, I now know, is the high-pressure fuel pump for the newfangled direct injection fuel injectors. That is the exhaust cam. That's another solenoid. They didn't want to come out for the variable valve timing. In the end, that trusty little trim tool did the job. In all these cases here, mostly it's just everything's held in with rubber grommets, like 2 of them often. And if you just wrench hard enough, they come off. That's the knock sensors there for Bank 1 and Bank 2. Then that injector rail. And some of those injectors are quite tricky to get out, and they're already, quite corroded or whatever that is on the end. A big thank you to subscriber and member Mike Davies for some great advice in last week's comments section. Amongst other things, he told us that this metal stuff is called bearing foil and must have come from the main or the big end bearings. He also said if you tap here with a piece of wood or something, our trusty drumstick, you can tell if maybe the big end bearings are bad. Now, I did notice that cylinder 4 went in more than the other ones. There's cylinder 4 right there. It only did it the first time. The cylinder 5 and 6 felt different. For the first time, I finally had to give in and get a breaker bar for this T60 monstrosity. I also had to tie the engine to the hydro table with a come-along strap so it wouldn't fling itself across the room while I struggled with these bolts. And that thing, I'll figure out what that is and I'll put it up on the screen. And then taking off this coolant pipe. Again, just a bunch of external torques all around this place. E10s, E12s. Ooh, look at that long one. Great. And like on the 996, they are hidden all over the place. I did download a PDF manual for this engine, but it wasn't much help. Lee Jenkins at Porsche Engine Gurus was a lot of help, and he told me that piece just pulls off. I spent a while trying to figure out how to get that piece off before finally asking for help. Now here, that is one of the bolts for the timing chain guides. Another huge long bolt there, holding the cylinder head on. And that was it. After that menagerie of bolts, bit of manhandling. And that's it. Now here we can see there's 4. It sounds kind of hollow. And certainly when you compare it to 5 and 6, with a much more solid kind of sound, number 4 definitely stands out as being different. You can see there, that movement, that's what allows the ticking noise that we can hear on the outside of the engine. When we get inside, hopefully we should see what that is all about. Now I tried Bank 1 with the stick, and all of them sort of felt the same, so I wasn't going to bore you with that. This little trick here of using those plastic pipes and putting them underneath the engine block there made it easy to pull this engine over the edge and get to this bolt here. Little trick I learnt from the 996. And then a bunch of like little hidden bolts all over the place. Patience was required. And then booyah, that's it. Then a bit of wrenching on that triple layered cylinder head gasket. And then whacking the schnozzle out of those pistons, which this is bank 1 now. They were all the same. They all sort of felt more or less fine. Now, answering the question about whether the engine was seized, yes, it was completely seized. So it wasn't me being too ginger. It just wasn't going to turn. And we'll see why shortly. This pulley, let's have a listen. Yeah, that's still got some life left in it, as it should after 39,000 miles. And then this obviously is the oil filter. This would be one of the first places to look. We kind of knew the engine was dead, but you can still see there the same sort of pieces of gold that we found in the oil pan. That would obviously be very bad news if this was your engine. This coolant pipe here goes between the two banks and sort of balances the coolant between each side. Subscriber Flat6 Addict corrected me last week. This is not an oil pump. It is in fact the vacuum pump for the brake booster. Thank you, Flat6 Addict. And then here again, I thought I was breaking it, but no, it's just O-rings. You just have to wrench on things and they come off. That is the 991 way. Those timing rails look pretty good, as they should. Oh, again, more coolant. Gosh. And here, I'm just undoing bolts like a madman. A question that subscriber and member Mike Davies had was, can you look up through the oil sump and see into the cylinder bores and check for bore scoring? I thought that was a really good question that many 991 owners might have, and we're going to be able to answer that in just a few moments here. So I'm just unbolting everything I can find, and really, that metal pipe you see towards the bottom of the screen, if I got a bit more violent on that earlier on, that would have been easier. Here's another coolant pipe I'm taking off. Here I was able to remove 1/2 of the oil return plastic pipe by just rotating it against the other one, and it unclipped. That pipe that I'm on there, I should have just pulled on that harder. There we go. That would have got me further ahead sooner. Now this is the oil pump solenoid that I'm sort of getting to. Shockingly, this huge 32mm wrench appears to be the appropriate tool for taking out an oil pump solenoid. I had a little stray bolt there that I guess it's supposed to come through that little hole. Come on, buddy. Come on. Joy. All right. Now we can get that plate off, and that gets us more access. Then just pull off that seal, much less Loctite in this engine. What I'm doing here is along the lines of what I should have done to take the cams off. I'm unbolting the cog or the timing gear off the end of this oil pump in order to free it from the chain. And here, Mike Davies, is your answer. You can see much easier into the bottom of this 991 engine and into the bores right there than you can on the 996. Just a little window on the 996, but this is so easy. You literally could just stick your camera in, as we're doing here, into any of the cylinders and rotate the engine if your engine rotates, and you could see right in there, and you can see some of our bad news. That is another chain tensioner right there. This is some of the heater coolant pipes, I presume. Again, all this whole schnazzle here that looks like a big antler, that comes apart. Each of those pipes come off. And this is the water pump, a plastic impeller water pump there. And I found it easier to take off this stud, and then that made it possible to take off this whole shebang. Like I said, all of that, if you just pull on each of those pipes or put some WD-40 on them, is what I did, they all just pull off. It doesn't seem like they do, but they do. Again, another almost perfect rail. Here we go. Now we're getting going. We're doing the main case bolts all the way around. Found some more bolts on the inside. So many bolts. Look at those little suckers. Probably one use only. Another huge one there. Now, I also asked Lee Jenkins at Porsche Engine Gurus what these were, and they are just to fill the space so there's not so much coolant in this side of the engine, because those bolts are only on one side of the engine and the space to access the bolts, that space, is only on one side. And so those little foamy things fill the space so that both sides get a similar amount of coolant action. Alright, moment of truth here. I found a little place that I felt I could get away with some metal on metal action. And I've got my plastic trim tools. That trim tool with the green handle has a rubberized end, just before you guys start screaming. And that seemed to be about as far as I could get it apart. And I was expecting that there was a bearing carrier in there, but there isn't. Newsflash. And so all you do is you undo the Conrod bolts and take off the caps, and that's how you would get the halves apart and get the pistons apart. Which, if your engine rotates, is much easier. We were able to get access to enough things to be able to get it apart. But I quite like that design, and I think if you were putting this engine back together, that would be much easier than what we had to do on the 996, I think. And then a little bit of whackage to get the pistons out. And that was really it. A chance to look at what we have and see what actually happened, which I'm trying to get a good look at stuff as they come out. Here is our crankshaft coming out. Lovely. And the other pistons there. And getting close to the moment of truth and figuring out where the problem was. And it was really obvious. If we look down the main bearings here, I'd say that it's not particularly obvious from the main bearings, and that's because it was one of the big end bearing pairs. Again, looking down here, nothing particularly obvious, though definitely these bearings, I would say, are in less good shape than the bearings in the 996 that had 160,000 miles on them. If we look down the bores here, you can see that they all have a little bit of bore scoring. That is bank 1, I must presume. Here's bank 2. That's 6. 5, which is not great. And then there's 4. Look at that. It actually looks better in the video than it is in real life. I'm going to have to try to make that... Oh, yeah, that looks pretty awful there. But beyond doable is the answer. And then the crankshaft, here we are. It was cylinder 4. There it is. You can see the heat damage from that bearing getting munched up. All the other journals are good, lovely even. But the journal for cylinder 4, some of it, I think, some of the bearings still on there. So that's it. And the bore scoring that went with that and gave us our clicking noise. Oh yeah, would you like to hear the last few seconds of this engine's life? This was a meticulously maintained 39,000 mile car with 2,300 miles since the last oil change, and you can see here the telltale sign of elevated copper. It's a real standout at almost 5 times the expected levels. Now that we know what's wrong with it, is it worth fixing it? Well, I called around and got some general numbers, starting with the machine shop. You're going to need them to skim the cylinder heads and fit your wrist pins, etc. And that's going to cost you about $500. Next up, reconditioning, things like your starter motor, fuel injectors and what have you. $200 is a conservative estimate there. Engine plastic parts like the timing rails and extra bits and bobs like that would be about $200. Engine metal covers the timing chains and bolts. That would be about $300. The engine bearings would be main bearings, big end bearings, the thrust bearings. Those would be about $600. There is no gasket kit that I could find for this engine, so all the various gaskets, including the cylinder head gaskets, would be about $1,500. Fluids like your engine oil and power steering fluid, about $150. And then plugs, filters, miscellaneous bits and bobs, $100. So that comes to a total of $3,550. Not too bad, assuming that you already had the engine. Now that just more or less rebuilds a healthy engine. To fix the bore scoring, we have to replate those cylinders, which if they are possible to be done at the current displacement is $1,600. I did find a place that can fix the crankshaft, assuming it's not cracked, and that would be $500. Of course, our pistons are mostly ruined, and so we need new pistons, which is a total of $3,600, $600 each. That's double the price of the 996 pistons. That makes the minimum total to rebuild this engine $9,250. But that's not all, folks. There's more. It's possible that that damage on the bore may be too bad and they have to oversize it. If that's the case, it's $600 to go to an oversized cylinder, and then whatever kind of pistons you want to put in there are about 25% more, and so that's another $900, bringing your total then up to $10,750. That, of course, is just replating the cylinders like the factory. If you want something longer lasting, you could do a cylinder re-sleeve, which would be an additional $5,000, bringing your total to rebuild this engine without any labor cost to $15,750. Now that is a pretty tough pill to swallow, and you can see why people might go with a used engine off eBay. One of those is about $13,000 and comes ready to bolt in pretty much. And then the other option, of course, would be a new engine from Porsche, which would be just a long block, but that would have a full warranty and everything, and one of those is $24,000.
So what would you do? You can see why part 1 of this series was called Heartbreaker, because these engines have forced many people to do some pretty gruesome mathematics. And I don't know, for me, that coffee table is looking more and more appealing.
Hold on, what's the dog doing? Oh yeah, subscribe now. Delta says thank you.